And breaking tonight, many thought it would fade, but anti-Israel sentiment in the U.S. continues growing. Protesters again flooding the streets of New York City, even shutting down Grand Central Terminal. And it's not just the size of the crowds getting bigger, the volume of the hate is also being turned up. We have Team Fox coverage, Kevin Corke, on new warnings about increasing anger toward the U.S. But we begin with Matt Finn live on the massive anti-Israel protest in New York City tonight. Matt, good evening.
Good evening, Trace. This protest has been going on for several hours now. It began at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thousands of pro-Palestinian demonstrators marching through the streets of New York, snarling traffic in Midtown. The MTA says Grand Central Terminal will remain closed until 11:45. And also in New York City, Columbia University announced it has suspended for the rest of the fall term 2 groups that oppose Israel's actions in Gaza. The university says the groups Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace repeatedly violated school policy related to holding campus events, culminating in an unauthorized event yesterday that included threatening words and intimidation. The groups organized a walkout demanding Columbia University refer to Israel's actions against Gaza in retaliation for the October 7th attacks as genocide. Columbia's decision to ban the 2 groups has been met with criticism on both sides. And the president of the prestigious MIT says she had serious concerns violence was about to erupt on campus yesterday during a, quote, disruptive, loud, and sustained anti-Israel protest in which Jewish students say they were physically intimidated and prevented from attending class in an hours-long demonstration against Israel. The MIT president says the school ended up suspending students who refused to leave only from extracurricular activities, not classes. The MIT Israel Alliance says Jewish students on campus were prevented from attending class by a hostile group of pro-Palestinian students who call themselves the Coalition Against Apartheid. Writing in part, students from the CAA harassed MIT staff members in their offices for being Jewish and interrupted classes in the past few weeks. All of this has occurred with no clear response from the administration. With each passing day, MIT's admin silence makes Jewish and Israeli students feel unsafe at MIT. And Jews on MIT's campus say they feel history is repeating itself right now, Trace.
We're going to talk a lot more about that. Matt Finn. Matt, back to you as the news warrants. Let's bring in Parents Defending Education founder Nicole Neily, American Federation for Children Senior Fellow Corey DeAngelis, and PragerU personality Xavier DeRusso. Thank you all for coming on. To you first, Nicole, because this MIT thing is kind of baffling me. The pro-Palestinian students blocked the Jewish students from attending classes. A pro-Israeli group writes the following, quoting here, "Instead of dispersing the mob or de-escalating the situation by rerouting all students from Lobby 7, Jewish students specifically were warned not to enter MIT's front entrance due to a risk to their physical safety." Can you imagine that? They're really told, look, sorry, but you're on your own.
Right. The administration's lack of response is a tacit endorsement of this bad behavior. And let's think about maybe if this were in a Title IX context, which is as far as discrimination on the basis of sex. In that, there was a 1999 Supreme Court case, Davis v. Monroe County, and that decision ended up from the Supreme Court said that denying if harassment is so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it denies an educational opportunity, that is a problem. That is exactly what is happening here. And the fact that MIT has failed to act and is putting the onus on Jewish students is shameful, and in my mind, a clear violation of civil rights.
Yeah, and it's shocking to a lot of people. The pro-Israeli group goes on to say, Corey, this, on the 85th anniversary of Kristallnacht, which marked the beginning of the Holocaust, Jews at MIT were told to enter campus from back entrances and not to stay in Hillel for fear of their physical safety. We are seeing history repeating itself, and Jews on MIT's campus are afraid. And they are afraid because you hear from them every day, Corey.
Yeah, look, this is embarrassing that in 2023 you have history repeating itself, and the cowards at the MIT administration should be ashamed of themselves for not keeping the campus straight and figuring things out. So, look, the funders should really defund these universities that aren't keeping Jewish kids safe, and look, why pay for this mess?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of money to go to MIT. Meantime, over at Columbia, FoxNews.com writes the following: Columbia suspends anti-Israel student groups for threatening rhetoric and intimidation. It writes, the Columbia chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine celebrated the Hamas terror attack on October 7th that killed 1,400, including civilians, women and children, calling it, quoting, an unprecedented historic moment for the Palestinians of Gaza. They and another group have been kicked off campus. I mean, at least this is a step in the right direction, Xavier?
Yes, what I really hope is that Columbia is taking this action not because of public pressure, but really because it's the right thing to do. They need to be combating this anti-Semitism, because as much as I am all for college students having freedom of expression, what the issue is, it's not their views. The issue is how they are expressing their views. They're out there celebrating hatred. They're celebrating rape and murder and calling it justified. And that type of provocative hatred has no place on a college campus.
No, and yet there it is. Meantime, let's move on to the media, because you've got the New York Times headquarters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, right? So this is the protesters there. And you've got AP writing, pro-Palestinian demonstrators occupied the lobby of the New York Times on Thursday, demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, while accusing the media of showing a bias toward Israel in its coverage of the Israel-Hamas war. The New York Times biased towards Israel, Nicole?
This is laughable. I mean, let's remember, this is the same New York Times that has been working with freelancers that knew about the October 7th attack in advance. Senator Tom Cotton just called this out. And the New York Times response letter to him was curiously worded, because they said, we do not employ anybody. Great, you don't give them a 401k, but you have people on your payroll who are making money from your corporation. If you are biased against anyone, it's against the state of Israel. How dare you?
Yeah, it really is. And Corey, I want to put this up, because this is the protest video outside the New York Times, and I'll get your response. Watch this, about 10 seconds long. Your thoughts on the shame, shame, shame outside the New York Times?
I mean, it looks like we have too many career protesters and activists in this country. Look, they might have learned this from their liberal activist teachers in the public school system and the unions who strike so much to complain for everything that they want to get out of the taxpayer. So look, we have too many people protesting, and yeah, we just we need to hold people accountable.
Yeah, we need to. And Xavier, I mean, the whole thing here is you look at these people and you wonder if they realize what they're saying. When they say from the river to the sea, do they know what they're saying? Is somebody educating them about what they're actually out there protesting?
You know, it's kind of half and half. You have some people who genuinely are just that hateful and they want to see an entire group of people be wiped out. Then you have others who have just fallen for the media manipulation and have no idea what they're fighting for. These radical extremists are so accustomed to the media aligning with everything that they stand for that this is the kind of behavior that you get when you actually see truthful, unbiased media reporting.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of sad to see. Xavier, Nicole, Corey, thank you all.